You didn't cause your loved one's dementia, but now it is your reality. So, what do you do next? Today, we're tackling the tough truth. Dementia isn't your fault, but it is your problem. But the good news, you don't have to face it alone. Let's talk about how you can move forward with confidence, clarity, and grace. Hey, Christian Care Companion. Welcome to Dementia Caregiver Support for Christians, where we equip Bible believing Christians with biblical wisdom and practical help for dementia caregiving. If you are a spouse, the adult child, or a family caregiver of a person living with dementia, this podcast is for you. Here we show you how to think differently about dementia caregiving, and we make it clear and simple and easy for you to change your caregiving results from chaos to calm. I am so excited for today's episode because I have really been thinking about this a lot. Dementia caregiving isn't your fault, but guess what? It is now your problem. And I want to start this episode by giving you an example, a real life example of something that happened to me. My husband was up in Boston helping his sister, whose husband was in a skilled nursing facility because he got super sick at the end of last year. And while he was gone, I was driving home from a store, minding my own business and not at all at fault. But I was in a car accident. A woman turned left over the traffic on a red light straight into me. And thankfully, I was slowing down so I didn't kill her because it was very, very close that I would have hit her on her driver's side door. But even if I had killed her, it would not have been my fault because she was 100% at fault in that car accident, but it still was my problem. I all of a sudden totaled my car. We only have one car. I had to wait around, cancel appointments, deal with insurance, deal with her, deal with my own emotions related to, driving and then being hit and going to a dead stop. All of these things were not my fault, but they were my problem. I still had to navigate through this. Well, dementia isn't your fault, but it is your problem. So if you're the family caregiver, a spouse, an adult child, whoever you are that's helping somebody else living with dementia. No, it's not your fault, but you still have to deal with it because it is your problem. So the first point today is you didn't cause it, but you do need to face it. The second thing is you're not to blame, but you are to direct the care. The third point is it's not your fault, but ignoring it will make it worse. And then the last point that we're going to look at is it's not fair, but God is faithful. So the first thing that we're going to look at is you didn't cause the person that you love, that you were helping, to have or get dementia, but you do need to face it. Many, 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 many people that I have worked with over the years and that I listen to and I see deny that the person that they're helping is experiencing these changes. There is a very common caregiver readiness scale, and those people are what I call affectionately the ostrich, right? Stick your head in the sand and hope it goes away. Well, if the person you love truly has dementia, denying it or avoiding it isn't going to help you, and it's certainly not going to help them. Many, many caregivers feel guilt or shame about a dementia caregiving journey. People feel guilt for a lot of different reasons. Maybe they feel like if they had noticed it earlier, they could have done something. They could have maybe helped the person. A lot of people feel shame when facing dementia because they feel that a variety of different things, including that if we don't tell people about it, maybe it'll just not be there. There could be some shame attached to a variety of different reasons. But a lot of people who are helping somebody living with dementia feel guilt or shame. But what that does the result that that gives us is that you stay stuck. As long as you are stuck, as long as you are not accepting of the fact that these things are happening, the less you will actually move forward and solve the problem. The reality is, dementia is like an ever rolling stream. It is constantly changing. I attest it's not confusing, but that's for another day. But it is constantly changing. And so when we stay stuck, when we feel guilt or shame, and we don't accept what is happening, we cannot move forward to actually solving the problem. So that's the first. The second point is you may not be to blame. You're likely not to blame at all, but you are, as the family caregiver, the husband, the wife, the adult child, the son, the grandson, whoever you are that is helping that person. Your job is to help direct the care. You may not have control over the fact that you are now in this particular situation, but you do have control over your experience. You can control the result of your experience. You do have control over how you experience your caregiving journey, as well as how the person you're helping experiences their dementia journey. You, as the family caregiver, can direct the outcome of your dementia journey, but it absolutely takes action. You cannot just passively wait. It's not like being on a lazy, summer day in a tube on a lazy river where you're just kind of cruising and the river takes you where you're going. That is not directing the care. Directing the care means that you are active. You are proactive and actively planning the result that you want to get. I'll never forget recently, a couple of weeks ago, I sat down with two clients. I actually mentioned this in my previous episode. They both just recently lost their mom to dementia within a month of one another. And they live local to me. So we went and had breakfast and I asked them a few questions. And the thing that struck me the most from the conversation, and then in my group, I actually they mentioned this in the group, and several of the other people in the group mentioned the same thing. And this is something that I do intuitively. And when people start working with me, I ask them, what do they want their journey to look like? And Pam said something so profound. She said to me, Lizette, I didn't know that it could be different. I didn't know that I could actually think about the outcome that I wanted from this journey until you asked, what do I want this to look like? And so that is where I work with people, and I've got a couple of episodes. They're called the Caregiver Reflection Question. And the question, in essence, is we are sitting here 3 years from today, and you are beyond your caregiving journey, and you're looking back on that journey. What do you need to do differently to actually get the outcome that you want? What do you want your life to look like? If you are the daughter and you are married, what do you want your relationships to look like with your husband, with your children? What do you want your health to look like after this caregiving journey? Because if you do not begin with the end in mind, I can guarantee you will end with a different result. We do, yes, I believe in God's providence, 100%. But I also believe that God gives us means and God gives us a way to plan our lives. We are not just, flying on the breeze like a leaf being blown away. God ultimately directs our steps, but we can make decisions to change the outcome of what it is that we want. For example, nobody here would say that when their kid wants to go to school, that they cannot take certain actions to direct the outcome. If you want to go to med school, you take certain steps and certain actions to get the outcome of going to med school or law school or college. Or when you want to get married, if you want a certain type of a wedding, we plan proactively to get the outcome that we want, and it takes action. Well, guess what? You can choose how you want this journey to unfold because we can do things different. And so that's the second point. We may not be to blame. but we are able to direct care. Now, the third part of this is dementia isn't your fault, but ignoring it will make it worse. Many, many, many of the people I come in contact with on Facebook or conversations related to caregiving all usually tell me one of two things. I am so stressed. I'm so overwhelmed. And that stress and overwhelmed results in one thing, and that is immobilization. They wait too long. But the reality is, the longer you wait to take action, the harder it becomes to undo the unintended consequences of your inactivity. Now, what on earth, Lizette, do you mean by that? Well, one of the biggest things related to dementia, and if you pay attention to what I talk about a lot here, is dementia caregiving is 100% reliant on the relationship that you have with that person. And when we break that relationship early on in the journey, we make the journey even harder than it has to, right? And so one of the people in my community, we always joked at the beginning, she's like, yes, I know I shouldn't be reasoning with my mom, but my mom can still reason. And so therefore, and I told her one day, I'm like, I am trying to teach you a different way to do it because I know and I recognize at some point in this journey, your mom is not going to be able to reason through this anymore. And what we've now done is we've trained you to reason with her. And now we have to undo that. So waiting too long makes it harder for you to learn a different way of doing it. And guess what? Dementia doesn't wait for you to be ready. It is that ever rolling stream. It is going to happen. If the person you love truly has dementia, these changes are going to happen. And dementia isn't going to wait for you to be ready. And time keeps moving on. Time is not standing still. It is unrelenting. It is the one thing neither you or I can stop. We cannot pause time. We cannot slow time. We cannot do any of those things. But what we can do is get out of our sense of overwhelm and stress and immobilization by starting to take action. Because even though it's not your fault, if you continue to ignore the fact that the person you love is having these changes, it will make it worse because it's not going to wait for you to be ready. It's going to continue to change. And you can be ready. There are lots of things that we can do to make you ready, but it takes action. Number 4 is, yes, dementia is not fair, but God is faithful. Now, if you listen to last Friday's episode, which was What You Need to Know About Death and Dying, which was episode 223, you know that dementia isn't the worst death that we can have, right? And even though I don't believe in quote unquote fairness, because that is a concept that if you are a Christian and believe that we are sinners, that none of us are good, we don't really deserve fairness, right? What we deserve is the wages of sin, which is death, right? So yes, it's not fair for the person to have to experience this, but God is faithful. He is faithful in this journey. Life is hard, but we as creatures, fallen creatures, because of Adam's sin, the wages of sin is death. But here are my 2 favorite words in scripture. But God is faithful. But God equips us with what we need. But God has provided us with this particular journey in our life for His glory and our good, and it is part of our sanctification, either as a person living with cognitive loss or as the family caregiver of somebody with cognitive loss. God is faithful. So what can you do? You can focus on what you can control. What might that? You can control your thoughts. You can control your attitude, and you can control your gratitude. So let's briefly talk about your thoughts. We are commanded in scripture to hold every thought captive to Christ. And the other way I say this is we're commanded to think God's thoughts after Him, right? So when our thoughts, and this is one of my biggest platforms, is that we absolutely the world's narrative is dementia is confusing, it is devastating, it is the worst thing ever, it is all of these negative things. And I'm not disputing that it has challenges. Life has challenges, not just dementia, right? But when we think these thoughts, we get these results. Recently in my community, one of my members mentioned that her situation was creating right now for her a lot of, she used the words post-traumatic stress because it was a very difficult situation that had unfolded. And my challenge to her was to reframe that experience, to take that experience and look at it in a different way. Think about what it is that you are thinking about, right? Because we can control our thoughts. We like to think that we don't control our thoughts, but we do. We also control our attitudes. If you have the attitude that this too is for your good and for God's glory, it will change your attitude. And also, we can focus on being grateful. Grateful for not the losses, but grateful for what we can still get from it. How can you serve this person? How can you love them in a different way? How can you show God's love for you through Christ by serving them, by washing their feet, by loving them, by caring for them, by being, if you're the person, by being vulnerable, by accepting help. We can be great. You still have that person with you. Does it look different? Absolute. But what can you be grateful for today? So what do you need to know about dementia caregiver guilt through dementia isn't your fault, but it is your problem. So to recap real quick, yes, I didn't cause it, but I do need to face. No, I'm not to blame, but I am to direct the care. Yes, it's not my fault, but ignoring it just makes it worse. And no, it isn't fair. It's hard, but God is faithful. And throughout your caregiving journey, God is there with you. I promise you just need to look for him. He is there. He is with you and he is upholding you through this process and knows something every single day. I pray for family caregivers just like you and me. I pray for the people living with dementia, and I am excited to be working with you and having you listen to this podcast and serving you in this specific way. My next Ask the Dementia Coach monthly question and answer session is coming up on February the 20th. It's at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you haven't had an opportunity to join yet, join. This is where you get one-on-one in a group context, but everybody gets their own time, where you get one-on-one interaction and real live in-person caregiver support through a biblical perspective, but using evidence-based strategies. So the link is in the show notes. Otherwise, go to thinkdifferentdementia.com/ask and sign up for our next Ask the Dementia Coach monthly question and answer session. And as I try to remember to end all of the podcasts, may the Lord bless you and keep you. And come back and please like and subscribe and share this podcast with your family. One of the biggest things that I know to be true is that most caregivers say one of their biggest challenges is caregiver conflict between family members. What better way for you to have somebody else speak into the situation that's not you, and that is by sharing this podcast with them. Yet again, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and I will see you in the next episode.